Stand in awe. It's what we do. It's not always what we feel, but it's certainly what we do. Even if the emotions aren't out front, tough on them. We just drag them along because who he is and what he is and your presence here makes that clear. He is that. And it's what we purpose to offer to him, and it's what we offer here, being here this Lord's Day. Friend of mine, my family, became acquainted with him in 1965. He came to Ireland to work with us in 1967. His name is Len Campbell, 6'3". His wife, Ali, is 5 foot. And he is very ill. The details don't matter, but they were talking about 3 weeks ago about taking both his legs off from below the knee. All kinds of stuff like that. And he's very, very ill. And, he might be leaving just right soon. And we went to see him a while ago. But anyway, I just needed to tell you, the fellas, he's close to home. And it's burdening his family, of course. As you would expect, we won't apologize for feeling sad about things. Paul, Epaphroditus, Paul said, God took care of Epaphroditus. And that helped us. He said it meant that we weren't overburdened with sadness. So it matters. Happiness matters. Paul said that the widows could remarry. It was okay if their husband dies, she can remarry. He said, but she'd be happier if she took my advice under these circumstances. It matters whether people are happy or not. The good news is that the joy that you and I share and the happiness that you and I share is a gift of God. And on and on and on and on. It's Matthew 9, and Jesus is walking by from another place. He sees a fellow sitting. He's an IRS man. His name is Matthew or Levi. And there he sits. And Christ stops by there. That's the text. What's not stated by the text, but is in the text, unspoken, is that this is a hard-bitten sort of a fella. He's a collaborator with the occupational forces. And if you think of a tax collector in the New Testament setting, you're not talking about some of the sweet-spirited IRS people that you know. These are collaborators. You're supposed to think of what went on during the time when the Nazi group was going, and the collaborators like Vichy France and all of that. Ooh, they just weren't nice people, but they must have been tough for all of that, to put up with all the hatred that they would see and the people not talking to them and their kids being jeered at. All of that must have gone on. And Matthew would have been something like that. But here this fellow stops in front of him. Text doesn't say this. But he stops there and he looks at him for a while. And then he says, that's beneath you. Get up and follow me. And the text says, he got up and followed him. What the text doesn't say is that Matthew knew it's the Messiah. He didn't think it was a local butcher or somebody like that. He knew who it was. And Christ called him. And whether he got up immediately in the temporary time issue or later, he certainly got up and followed him. And those who would have heard Jesus approach the man would have gone to tell all their cronies, well, you'll never guess who it is that called this fella to follow him. And he went and did it. Guess who? And they would have all their guessings. And no, it's better not. And finally he would tell them, it was old Moneybags himself, it'll be a cold day and where you know where before he gets up and follows. Bless me. Wouldn't they have been astonished when the word got around that that's exactly what he did do? Here's this fella sitting here doing all that he's doing, so contrary to the culture and the feeling of the people and everything else. But there was something down in him, a capacity that God had been working in and through him. There it was, hidden all along, and only Jesus saw it. There he was. And when Christ called him, our brother said something about that as we introduced one of our hymns, didn't he? Here we come, I want to see more of him and all of that. It's in there, it's in you, and it's why you're here. And Matthew may not have felt it. You may not, and I may not know just how much capacity there is in us for love of him, for commitment to him. So many things going on in your day and mine. Everybody's having busy days, and you get busy and the mind goes all over the place, and we can't focus on who he is. That's why we have this. That's why we come here. For here, we don't run to leave the real world. We come here to speak the truth about the real world. For the real world is where God is center, where Jesus Christ is his king and regent, where the people who have been called by the gospel, few or many, strong or weak, coming to him in faith, and they gather, I was going to say Sunday after Sunday. This isn't Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. Okay, they're all the Lord's Day. I get that. And so do you. But there's something peculiar about this day, and here you are. How many? Not a lot here right now compared with some of the places where big gatherings are going on. But the big gatherings are no more real, no more genuine, no more Christ-centered than this one. And the size is of little consequence. Would we love a congregation to be larger? Yeah. But it's not the size, it's the truth of it. It's the sincerity and genuineness of it. And here you are. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Why is Brandon bringing a baby, 2 babies here? What's this all about, for pity's sake? Other than that, God has gotten a hold of us and is keeping on doing it. And one day we'll think, I didn't know that. And here we will grow, and our emotional level will grow. And all our concerns, and there's some concerns that are real. Life can take some really sharp turns. You know that. So it doesn't need developed. Some of you are sitting here wrestling with them. But here you are, tiny and all. Christ said to the group who were very troubled, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure." The word he uses is the word that involves both pleasure and the will of God. Yeah. Fear not, little flock, for it's your Father's will, his good pleasure, to give you the kingdom. Amen. Ugh! This is who you are. And it doesn't make any difference. Our fears can be what they are. But in Luke chapter 21, he said, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Wars, rumors of wars, famine, on and on and on it goes. And then he says, in the light of all of that, panic. No, he doesn't say that, does he? In the light of all of that, throw in the towel for pity's sake. No, he doesn't say that either. He said in the middle of all of that, lift up your hands. Your redemption draws near. And here the shepherds out in the fields. The glory of the Lord shone round about them. And the angel of the Lord is there. And the text says they were exceedingly afraid. And if that were to happen to us, the first words we would want to hear is the words that they got. Don't be afraid. I've got good tidings for you. I preached somewhere on the East Coast some time back, and a very fine man, one I've come to know more after those years. He said, you can preach okay, he said to me after. And he had 4 or 5 young men with him. And there was nothing mean about it, nothing. But he wanted to make a point. He said, yeah, you preach okay, that's what he said. And then he said, but you don't ask anybody to do anything. Well, I didn't want to argue with him, but his sake. But I always thought I did. He said, but you're always talking about God, but you never ask anybody to do anything. I took the view that if you talk about God and you talk about Christ, you talk about the Spirit of God, you talk about the Godhead, you talk about what it is that Christ has said and taught. If you show Him, if you manifest Him in your speech and how you treat one another and people know you're a Christian, I think you are calling people to do things. And my sense of things is right or wrong or imbalanced or whatever. And if you don't like some of the stuff I say, I'd love you to come and talk to me about it. But I'm saying nothing that'll make any enemies here. If we constantly have our eyes on Jesus Christ, those who minister, those who help us sing, those who shepherd us, whoever it is, our teachers. And I'm talking about teachers who are over there teaching children and all of that. If we're doing this and Christ is the center of what it is that we're talking about, people become shaped. Sometimes we need help. Somebody might need to say to us, well, what you could if you, and that. But if you don't have the heart for it, you won't do it. If you have the heart for it, you'll find a way to do it. I listened to a fella a long time ago now. He was a preacher fella, salaried by the people he was talking to. And it was very critical. He said, if there's going to be any movement, a stump on a tree will move before you do. You're not doing anything. Oh, what? They paid for his house, paid for his car, for his medical bills, for his children's schooling, and on and on and on and on. And does that count as something done? Did they pray for him regularly? Yeah, they did apparently. And he thought that didn't work. He just wanted things to be. More better, more moving and, moving and shaking. That was the phrase I was looking for. Silly old phrase, but still, yes. He wanted more of them. Let me tell you, Mary Ann Evans, is that a familiar name? Mary Ann Evans. More familiar was the name George Eliot. She took the name George Eliot and became a writer. 7 novels that have been made into movies and dramas by the BBC, all of that. Silas Marner, yes, yeah. Middlemarch, Mill and the Floss, etc. A.M. Fairbairn said she used to be a believer and she lost her faith. He said it didn't, you see what I'm now saying? It had nothing to do with what I'm supposed to be saying, but I can't help it. He said she didn't cease to believe in the faith. She just stopped loving it. Truth needs to be made not only true where that's necessary, but it needs to be made to appear beautiful. And if it's about Him, we need to be enriched. You have a right to leave this building every Lord's Day. Lift it with the thought, maybe not emotionally up because you're under all kinds of this, that, and the other, but here you were and you came to hear about God. And God looks like Jesus Christ. Well, anyway, George Eliot finishes off the book Middlemarch talking about one of her characters, and the character is called Dorothea. And Dorothea, the character in the book, just never made her mark when maybe she could have, you see. And she says of Dorothea, but just by being, her influence was diffusive. It affected people that she had influence with. And this is the truth, she says, that things are not as bad with us as they might have been were it not for people who faithfully lived out their life unknown and now lie in tombs unvisited. They affect the world. And there have been people in this assembly that have died recently, and there'll be some of us who will be leaving soon, I suspect. But that your faith has continued in Him, that you are here, that you think prayerfully, that your mind moves to people who are in need of help. You wish sometimes you would love the love more, but if you love the love, if you want to love, that's a form of loving also. Yes. Is there anything heroic, though, to do? What are you doing that's heroic, you people? Yeah, Hey? Let me tell you what's heroic. In a world, I know the world is not all bad. We say it's filled with evil. It's okay to say that as long as we understand it's not filled with evil. God's at work, even in people who don't know His name and all of that. He has shaped them and is helping them. It's mentioned in class, people who are nurses and doctors and people who take care of people. All of them, they do it with a great heart and devotion and all of that. It's all the work of God in them. So, the world is evil. We get that. And Christians are sneered at. And here you are. Somebody says, would you bow with me, please? And you do. You bow in here. And you amen something rich and true. Because the world at its worst sneers at that and jeers at that and mocks it and writes about it and shows movies that all of that. It is heroic to pray in this world. There's nothing gutless about you. Nothing. Not if you believe in him. And if you're gentle. And if you are forgiving. Or at least you seek to grow in the capacity to be unembittered and forgiving. That is heroic. It's heroic to walk up to someone who we were having bad trouble with. Walk up and say to them, hey, I'm missing you. This is not us. Speaking one to another, being warm to one another. If you're mistreated, don't get angry. Get even. That's the story. It's heroic not to do it. Francis Drake is regarded by those who say they know these things as maybe the greatest sailor in history. And the fellows that went out with him, I hear myself having already said this some time back. I don't care. I'm started it now. I'm going to finish it. He was regarded as just terrific. Just everybody wanted to sail with him. And they did, many of them. And he was gone for all kinds of time. Fought in the Armada and all of that. Just, one of these Earl Flint. The younger ones don't know who Earl Flynn is, but whoever it is, Burt Lancaster or whoever you've got. But he was a real-life character, and they all wanted to sail with him. And when they came back, and they would talk to people, where have you been? I was out with, of all people, Francis Drake. Wow. Well, who's Francis Drake, And they would tell not of the balmy nights, not of the lovely surf and all of that. They would tell of 20-foot waves. They would tell about storms. They would tell about, you whip off the shirt, like Paul does in Galatians 6, whip off the shirt, take a look at that. A shark got a hold. And they would tell of all that adventure. And they would tell it to country boys who were out with a plow. And boys barefooted would run off to sea just to get involved in the heroic bit of madness in Drake, you understand. But heroic just the same. And what about you? Your life, what, is a bore? I might give you the impression it's a bore. Nothing boring about it. Nothing boring about it. Every time you walk through that door back there, it's heroic. Well, tell them all that and they won't do anything. I'm telling you to tell them that is to tell them something wonderful. Every time a Christian mother or father, husband, wife, son or daughter gets up Lord's Day morning, gears up, gets all spruced up, heads for the building, something wonderful is happening. Oh, something wonderful is happening. And if I give you the impression it's not, I'm withholding truth from you. If it's faith getting up in the morning and coming out here, and if it's faith that leads you every day to live, just doing the ordinary things. Marcus Dodd was right, a very famous Scots preacher in the 19th century, died at the early 20th. He said the toughest thing in life is to do the ordinary everyday things and do them faithfully unto God in faith. He said that. Every now and again, we can do something heroic. Every now and again, we can do something startling. But to do the same thing, go to work, do whatever you do, whatever it is. Haven't you been in a job? Well, I hope you haven't, but have you never been in a job? I've been in a job where it bored me spitless to be living like that day after day after day, because there's no option. You have to get the money to the food and this, that, and the other, and money to keep a place open, men and women to teach or whatever it is that they're doing, teaching God, all of that, the money. We contributed here this morning in a particular way, but through the week you spent money to pay your honest debts. You bought stuff that needed to be bought, food, you provided for children, or you provided for all of those things. We're doing marvelous, wondrous things, and God sees it. And God says, don't be afraid, little flock. Kingdom's been given to you. And then he says to the apostolic group and some others that he took aside at some point, he said, do you know what you know? I forgot to start my little clock. I don't know what time I started. I'll finish soon, okay? What was I saying there? I forgot, and then my clock came in the end. What was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying, so I'm going to start somewhere. What? Yeah, but before I said the little clock, that's what took me off where I was going. Isn't this ridiculous? But this is me. Well, that's a good trick he uses. That gets us all interested. It's not a trick. I forget stuff all the time. But I won't forget this. I won't forget you. I won't forget you. And God doesn't forget you. And you have been given the kingdom of God. You're a part of it. And while you haven't seen the fullness of the dominion that God has given you, your day's coming. You live your life faithfully. You love your husbands and wives, your children and your parents. You'll show respect. You'll do the best you can. You'll have sicknesses and look at that, Larry. Look. I saw him this morning. I thought, that's not Larry. He's 10 years younger. He's got that thing sticking in his chest here, and he's all keen. And Joanne, I thought she had taken up with another man, because there was this young guy sitting beside her. But there they are. Look at them. I love this. Well, isn't Jim a lovely man? No, I'm not a particularly lovely man. Oh, but I just know this. This is what keeps the story alive in the world. It's not the academy. Long before there was an academy, a religious one, long before it, there were people who were ignorant. There were people who couldn't read. There were people who had no political power, no economic power, no big jobs, no social influence, and they kept the story alive. And you? I don't know how old you all are, but I know there are a number of you that are well up there, and here you are in the Lord Jesus Christ. I've got a note here. I'm stopping this, okay? What should it? Well, Jimmy Durant. I was going to say something about Jimmy Durant. I'll not tell you the whole story about Jimmy Durant. I don't know it all, but I'm not going to tell you what I know. I know this. He sang the song and made a big hit of it. And I can't remember the name of it. But in any case, in it he said, fame makes someone happy. That's the title. I listen to that every now and again. Not often, but every now and again I turn it on and listen to him again. And the title is, Make Somebody Happy. And in the course of it he says, fame, if you win it, it just comes and goes. in a minute. Elvis is gone. We still know the name for a while, but give another generation and they'll say, who? You know. You and I are not going to be famous. That's all there is about it. It's too late for us, isn't it? In our settings, well, who cares? Who cares? Our lives are in God. I will not apologize, and neither will you. And I will not encourage you, and you will not encourage me to look on Jesus Christ as some kind of, well, you know, it's okay. No, he's bigger than that, more glorious than that, more thrilling than that. Makes you happier. Happier? Is the word happy all right? That word happy is fine. Yeah, well, you know, those people may be happy, but they're not really happy. They're happy. Yeah. But what we've got in this life, and I'm not putting what we have in this life down. No, not at all. I quite enjoy my life. And so do you. We have our moments when we weep and we worry and all of that. Yeah, okay, but still. I hope you're not very unhappy with life right now. I hope you're not feeling that and we don't know it. But if there's some way we can help with anything like that, you know, we would like to know. But it's hard to tell people the tough times in your life, isn't it? But that's not what I meant to say. I suspect that you, as I do, I quite like being alive. You know, that's all right with me that there's some sharp corners. I like it. I mean, I've got Linda around, I've got George around, I've got Jim around, I've got some friends around and all that. I eat all right. I have a nice bed to sleep in. When I have a shower, oh no, that's too cold. Oh no, that's too hot. I mean, just all these things are going our way for pity's sake. It's all right to be hungry. It's all right to be tired. It's all right to be bored spitless every now and again with things because they're going the same way. That's okay, but that's not us in the end. And if your life is very good and it's going your way, every now and again you would sit and think, yeah, well, it's got to be more than this. There is more than this, though this is fine. E.T., the little alien fella, he's loved by the boy, And the other children, they'll give him he's left behind, he's alienated, he's away from his family, all of that, and they'll give him anything they can, and one of the boys would offer his own life and does. They ask him one day, our home is, and they tell him where's your home? And he waddles over to the window, and he's got this big long finger with the bulbous end that cures people. And he walks and he points out through the window into the sky and he says with this heartbreaking tone, home. You know, something like that. Not quite like that, but almost like that, okay? Home, he said. For all that the kids could give him, for all of the joy they would bring to him, for all of the happiness, it wasn't enough. There was home. And you love her. She loves you. You help one another. You do for one another. You're faithful to one another. You get mad every now and again at one another. Like one girl left the house saying, dear Harry, I hate you. Love Joan. You know, that kind of thing, I mean. Okay, so it happens. But here you are together. Things are okay. But it's not enough. We're not despising life. No, but there is something out there, so to speak. There's something out there on another side of life. And we think about it and we say, home. And this is the story you keep alive just by being here, just by smiling, just by eating the bread and whispering to yourself, to no one else. He's here. He's present. He's here. And then you drink with him. And you know he's drinking with me. and all the invisibility of it doesn't deny the reality of it. So God bless you for being here. God bless you for maintaining your faith. Everybody knows. Everybody knows it's God working and operating and enriching us. We get all of that. Which of you thinks, well, I'm a self-made person? None of you. We know it's the work of God, but God doesn't work magic like you see in the movies. He calls on you. He calls on you, the human, to cooperate with him, to respond to him, to come to know him and like him as he likes you. And that's your story. That's what you tell. And if I were to help you and you were to help me to get to know it better and to be able to tell it better, every now on the phone with someone you would say, you know what I heard yesterday in the Bible class? And you would tell it, and then leave it alone and let the truth that come out of you, let them. The preacher man, I've even forgot his name, Jerry. Jerry and I were talking yesterday. Am I amazing? Isn't this good? We were talking about how quickly we had to get people converted. And I had mentioned every now and again I'd fly from Lubbock to Dallas on a Braniff airplane hundreds of years ago. And I'm sitting down beside a person, and I'm thinking, I've got 35 minutes to get this fella baptized, you know. What? All we have to do is say something of the story. Bring something up that lets God's voice enter. And then let God and them get on with that. You don't have to be a preacher, praise God. You don't have to be. You just have to be what you are and turn it loose. Yeah? God bless you. What? I'm done. There's a whole lot of notes here, but the time's up and I wandered enough. But not wandered so far away from this truth. God bless you. God bless and enrich you. God make you happier with who you are in the Lord Jesus Christ. And our business in the world is not to become famous, which is good news. It's just to be faithful. And somehow or another, however you do it, if you can't do it with strangers, you can do it with your grandchildren. You can sing songs to them. You can tell them stories and the meaning of the stories. You can do that. We can do it, and you're doing it. I listen to Linda singing to the grandkids. She takes care of a lot of the grandkids. But I've thought of times when I heard my mother singing. She had a sweet voice, a little shrill on it, but but she sang about God. That we can do. If we can't do it with people we'll never reach, we can do it with the people around us who like us and we like them. You'll do what God enables you to do, and you will tell him. Every now and again when you're praying, you will tell him, Lord, I want to do better. We all feel that way. That's our conviction. But don't worry too much about getting better. Tell him, will you help me? And he will say, anything that you ask for with regard to you and my relationship in the kingdom, which is mine, you get it. You get it. Abide in me, we learned in Bible class. Abide in me, and you will, not you should. Doesn't say you should. Doesn't say you could. It said, abide in me and I in you, and you will bear much fruit. So you will. You do it, I'll do it. You do it your way, I'll do it my way. We'll do it for him or her or them or whatever. Yeah, we'll do it, won't we? And that's what we did when we ate and we drank. We renewed our covenant with him. And God bless you for that also. Can we help you in any way? Or you want to tell us, you want to help us? Here's the invitation. God bless you and thank you.